Today we'll be making this beautiful halter neck shift dress. It is very easy to make and you can style yours using a belt if you don't want that free effect. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Now for this dress we'll be making use of, I made use of 2 yards of fabric, so it depends on your size and how full you want yours to be. So I'll be using a flowered crepe fabric. You can also make use of any fabric that it gives this flow effect for this dress. So first of all, I will go and fold my fabric on bias. Like I'm not folding it on a straight line, I'm folding it on a bias line. This is what we call a bias line, so that it will have that free flow effect at the bottom part. So I'll just arrange my fabric and then I'll proceed to marking half of my shoulder measurement. So I'll look for where I have half of my shoulder measurement and I will mark. So half of my shoulder measurement is 7.5, so I'll just mark the 7.5 there. I'll connect with a ruler. So I will also mark half of my shoulder measurement on my armhole line. So I'll mark out my armhole and I'll transfer half of my shoulder measurement there. Now it is not going to be straight, you know, the bottom part is wider than that of the front, so I'll transfer the 7.5 to the armhole line and I'll also connect it with my ruler on a straight line. So after that, I'll mark my neckline measurements. For my front neckline, I'm using 3 by 3 inches for my front neckline. Then I will just connect. Now I'm going to be marking from my shoulder to my half length measurement. I'm using 17 for my half length. You can use whatever half length you've measured on your body. Then the length of my gown, I'm using 35 inches, but I marked 36 because I'm going to be folding it in. So I will just mark out the half length measurement all the way through and use my ruler to just connect it on a straight line. So I'm just marking out the length of my gown, but I will later use my tape to reconnect it. Now I'm going to be marking half of my bust measurements, quarter of my bust measurement divided by 4, and then I'll add 1.5 inch for ease because I don't want it to be tightened. I will be adding 1 inch for my sewing allowance. So now I'll be dropping my shoulder slope by 1 inch and I will reconnect from my neckline to form my shoulder slope. Now I'm also going to connect my armhole curve. I'll divide what I have into 2 and then I'll mark it and I'll go in by 1/2 inch. Then I'll just reconnect with a straight line from the shoulder to that point and then connect it with a curve back to my armhole, to my bust measurements. Now I'll go ahead and mark 1/4 of my waist measurement as well on the half length line, and the same thing, I'll add 1.5 inch for my ease and then I'll add 1 inch for my sewing allowance. Now it depends on how full you want yours to be. If you want the ease to be really big, you can add up to 2 inches. So I'll just connect like this and then shape it all the way down to the hem of my gown. So now at this point you can shape it how full you want the bottom of your gown to be. So now I'm going to pin my tape on the neckline and then I'll connect from there. I'm marking all the way to the length of my gown. I'm marking the 35 inches all the way around because if I mark it straight, it's not going to be having that curved effect. So you have to pin your tape on one side and just mark the length of your gown all the way around. So after that, I'll cut it out and then I'll proceed to cutting the back. So while cutting the front, I'm not going to be cutting the neckline up to the 3 inches because I'm going to be using the same pattern to cut out the back. So I'll just make my neck depth for the front 1 inch. I know I already marked 3 inches, but I will cut out the 3 inches after I've already cut out the back. So I'm just going to be using 1 inch first of all, so I can just place it and cut the back because the back is going to be exactly what we have here. So I'm just going to fold my fabric again and cut out the back. For the back, I'll just place the front and cut exactly what I have on the front. Now I'll just go ahead and cut it on exact. Now for the back, for it to be able to pass through our neck, we'll be having an opening at the middle of the back. On that opening, we'll be cutting the facing for it, but we're not going to be turning the neck, we're just going to be turning the opening. By the time we've started sewing, you will understand what I mean. So now this is the back. So I'm going to be notching the mark where I'll put my pocket from my half length line. I'm coming down by 1.5 inches, then I'll notch that part. Now for the opening of the pocket, I'm going to be opening my pocket by 7 inches. You can open yours as wide as your hand can pass through. So I'm going to be notching the opening as well. So now those parts are where I'm going to sew my pockets on. So now I'm going to cut out the neckline for my front now at this point, since I've already cut out the one for the back. But first of all, I'm going to cut off the shoulder since it's a halter neck. So I'm just going to connect from my armhole like this and just cut those parts out. This is what is going to give me my halter neck. So now at this point, I already have my halter neckline. So I'm going to cut out the neckline of the front. So now for the back, I'm going to be opening that part where I'm going to be marking out my opening, sorry. Then I'll just slit it open. I marked up to 7 inches and then I slit it open. I'll be cutting the facing to turn it around. Now you can cut your facing and turn it first of all before cutting it open if it's going to be easier for you. But regardless, you can also pin it down. Now I'm going to proceed to cut the facing for the neckline for the back. Now I fold my fabric and the middle part is going to go into the middle part of this neckline. Make sure that the part that is closed is what is going to be facing this part. Now I'll just go ahead to cut according to the shape of the neckline that I have. And make sure that the fabric underneath is longer than the part that you slit. If not, you will not be able to turn it. Now you see what I mean. So I've already cut out that part. Now notice the fabric underneath is longer, so I'm just going to shape it up all the way for the facing. Now I'll go and iron my interface on this part. Now for the pockets, I'm going to be cutting, since I left my opening to be 7 inches, I'm going to be cutting, I measure what I have, it was 7. I'm going to be cutting mine on 8 inches because that will be leaving half an inch on both sides. So for the length of my pocket, I'm using 11 inches. So I'll just cut it and I'll cut 4 pieces of this, 1 for each side, the front and the back. So it will be 4 pieces. Now for my pocket, I forgot to curve the hem of it, under the part that is going to be inside. So I'm just showing you the way you have to curve it by the time you want to sew it, because I forgot to record where I've already sewed it in before I forgot that I didn't curve it. So you could just curve yours like this. The part that you're going to sew is going to be having this curve. So now I'm going to go ahead and use my facing now to turn the neckline of the back. Now I'll just place it this way and then I'll pin it. That's why I said you can sew it first of all before slitting it open. But now I've already slit mine open, so I'll just pin it, go ahead and pin it to keep it in place. For the facing, the good side of the fabric is going to be facing the good side of the facing. And I'm going to just sew all the way according to the part that is cut open. Make sure that you sew according to it. Then I'll just flip it over to the other side and then I'll sew all the way to the neck. Now if you are not going to be having a turtleneck, you can just turn your neckline first of all before turning it over. But mine is going to be having a turtleneck, so I'm just going to be turning only this opening at the neck. And then I'll just stitch it down. I'll go to my ironing table, and iron it, and then I'll just stitch it down to keep it in place. So I've turned it over. I'll just go and iron it, and then I'll stitch it to keep it in place. You can also add hemming gum at this part as well to just hold it in place. So I've gone ahead to iron it, and then I'll stitch this side of it, and then I'll stitch the neckline, just an open stitch to just make sure that everything is in place holding. So I'll just stitch this part, and then I'll fold my armhole. So then I'll go ahead and sew my pocket. I'll join the pocket like this on the 4 parts of the dress, the 2 on this side and the 2 on the other side. I've gone ahead to stitch my pocket. Now what I'll do is I'll fold from my halter neck to my armhole line, and then I'll come back and connect all the way. I'll sew all the way around from my armhole. I'll sew around this way all through my pocket and sew it all the way to the hemline. So I'll just go and sew it and come back. Now I've gone ahead to sew it. Notice I've already sewn the halter neck part of it, and I've already gone ahead to sew the pocket on it. I've sewn it all the way, so now everything is covered, remaining only the neck. Now we're going to be working on the neck part. Now for the neck, we're going to be having a turtleneck. I'll measure all what I have on one part of the neck first of all. Then to connect to the other part of it, I'm going to be adding extra 1 inch. So I'll measure what I have here first. I have 9, then I'll jump over to 10, then I'll continue from there and measure what I have here. I will measure what I have here as well, and now total is 16, but I'll add 1 inch to make it 17. We're doing that because we're going to be having an opening at the middle part at the sides of our neck, since there's no shoulder to hold it in place. Now for the halter neck, for the turtleneck, I'm just going to be ruling a straight line first of all. And on the straight line, I'm going to be marking half of what I have measured around. Then I'll just rule it, and then I'll mark half of it there again. So on the sides, I'll go up by 0.75, and then I'll connect the 0.75 down to this middle part of the neckline. Now for the middle of the front, I'm going up by 0.25 to just give a little curve. Now I'll connect everything like this, then I'll connect it back to the 0.25. Now I'm going to be measuring what I want my turtleneck to be. So I want mine to be 1.25. Then I'll mark the 1.25 all the way. Sorry, 1.5. I'll mark the 1.5 all the way, and then I will connect it to give that curve effect. Then when I want to cut it on the fabric, I'm going to be adding half an inch. So now I'm just going to be curving the part that will go in the opening at the back. I'm just going to curve it so it's not just straight. So now I'm adding half an inch when cutting. I'm adding half an inch. So if you do this on paper as well, you can transfer it to your fabric and add half an inch to the part that you sew. Even on that cuff part, I added half an inch. On the top, add half an inch as well, because you are going to be sewing. So I'm going to cut another one of it, because I'm going to be using one to be turning the other one before sewing it into our neckline. Now this is what we have. I'm just going to open it up, and then I'll mark the middle to middle, and then I'll sew it all the way round, and then I'll leave the bottom part open. So I'll just go ahead and sew it all the way around at the top, from the sides to the top, and then I'll leave the bottom part open. Now I've gone ahead to sew from the sides to the top. Now the bottom part is open. I'm going to be notching the middle of this turtleneck, and I will notch the middle of the front part of my shirt. Now I'll connect it from the outside in. I'll use my pin to secure it. I'll connect it to the sides, and when I get to the side, I will leave 1 inch before connecting it to the one at the back. I'm trimming off those pointy edges. So now I've connected the front. Now for the back, now I'll start from the ending part of this. I'll start from the ending part and I'll pin it all the way down. By the time I get to the side, you'll notice that there is a 1 inch allowance there because of that extra 1 inch that we added. When I'm done, this is how I'm going to be folding it in. But now I'm doing it for the other side first of all. now I'll go and flip it over. Now I'm going ahead to sew it, and this is what I have. Now I'm going to be folding this part in, and then I'll pin it. I'll just pin it all the way through. On this part that we have the 1 inch, I'll just fold it in as well, and then I'll pin it to just keep it in place. I'll do the same thing from here to the ending part of the neckline. So I've gotten to the other side, and I also have the same 1 inch opening at this side. So just pin it carefully before going to your sewing machine and sewing on it on a straight line, so that the front and the back will just be sewn together. So now this is what I have by the time I'm done pinning. So I'll just go to my sewing machine now, and then I will sew all the way through. Just do it carefully so you can have a smooth neckline. So now this is it. This is the 1 inch extra that we have, and we'll go and sew it all the way through. So now I've gone ahead to sew it, and this is what I have. I'll just go ahead and fix my hook and eye to be able to use it to hold the dress. Then I'll go ahead and hem the bottom part of the gown as well. So guys, if you find this tutorial helpful, please kindly like the video, kindly comment. Your likes and comments helps push the videos to the right audience. So this is my hook, and I have already gone ahead to sew it on it. So I'll just use to hook it at the back of the dress, and that will be it. So this is the final outcome of the dress. I've gone ahead to hem the bottom. I'll just go ahead and iron it, and yes, this is what we have. So you can style it however you want. If you want to wear it this way freely, or you want to use a belt on it, however you want it to be, you can just go ahead and style it. So guys, please kindly like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel. I will see you in my next one. Bye for now.